Yeah, the matter was first brought to my attention by a former union official who saw it happen. Then I received a heap of documents, and the core document for me was a form that the Prime Minister filled out when she was a lawyer, and that form was a false instrument that she presented to the Commissioner for Corporate Affairs, and which he then used to incorporate a sham entity, a sham corporate entity, that the Prime Minister, who at that stage was in a relationship with a union official, not my informant, but her boyfriend, a bloke called Bruce Wilson, this fellow Bruce Wilson then used that sham corporate entity that was set up because of this paperwork the Prime Minister filled out. He used that sham entity to rip off $500,000. And it was money that came from a taxpayer fund, a government fund, money that was intended to be used for training young people in the construction industry. The Prime Minister had a central role in deceiving authorities to incorporating this sham entity. They would never have done it. They would never have done it had she not used her position as a lawyer to deceive them. Then, when people started to discover what had been going on, that the union's name had been misused by this corrupt union official, her boyfriend, when authorities started to discover that, what did she do? Did she go to police? Did she go to the union? Did she explain that he had had her set up this sham entity all those years ago? No, she did none of that. She told nobody outside of the partners in her law firm, and they didn't take any action either to tell authorities. It's a disgraceful, sordid affair in Australia's history. It has never been brought before the courts appropriately. It's not been completely investigated. The Prime Minister's role in it is pivotal. It's central, and it needs a proper investigation. Yeah, she's a master media manipulator. She's also capable... Look, it's not easy to say this about a fellow human being, but Julia Gillard is capable of looking you in the eye and lying to you. She is an accomplished liar. And I know that's an awful thing to say about a person. It's not something that I would say unless I was absolutely convinced of it and unless I believed that it was in your interests to know about this lady. Now, when most recently I lost my job, I had a radio show and I was bringing the former union official, the good one, the guy who blew the whistle about this. He wanted his story to be told publicly, and I agreed to do it. We promoted that his story was going to be told on the radio. The guy's name is Bob Kernahan, and we had ads running. 10 minutes before I was due to go to air, senior management in the media organisation that I worked for phoned me and said, "You're not to broadcast." Now, earlier that same day, another journalist, anticipating that this interview that I had was going to go to air, wrote a column that ran in the Australian newspaper. It's a national newspaper. Because the Chief Executive Officer of the News Corporation Limited, Rupert Murdoch's company, has spoken publicly about this now, we now know what happened on this same day. And what happened was this. The Australian newspaper ran a column describing some of the Prime Minister's behaviour. The Prime Minister then telephoned the CEO of the News Corporation Limited, a bloke called John Hartigan. Hartigan has spoken publicly and on the record about it. And she had three demands of him, of Hartigan. Number one, that the Australian newspaper withdraw that column from its online publications. Number two, that it issue a strongly worded apology that she drafted. The chutzpah of this woman is, it knows no bounds. And number three, she demanded from News Corporation Limited an undertaking that it never again publish the story, the AWU story, in either its printed editions or any of the websites under its control. So she had three demands which she delivered in a menacing fashion to the CEO of News Corporation. I know that she is capable of carrying out the threats implicit in that telephone conversation. I mean, I lost my job over it. And yeah, we in Australia, a democratic nation, have to wonder, is that the calibre of person that we want to hold up as a role model to our young people? I mean, she has just had her Parliamentary Secretary for Foreign Affairs deliver a speech to the General Assembly of the United Nations in New York. And Australia is seeking a seat on the UN Security Council, the global policeman, if you will. The thrust of her speech, which she approved, was to point out her contention that Australia is a country that operates on the rule of law, where everybody is equal in the eyes of the law. That is a lie. She herself is evidence of the untruth of that statement. So I think there is rich irony in the fact that Julia Gillard, our Prime Minister today, is in New York. She's there for the purpose of lobbying for Australia to hold a seat on the UN Security Council, and she's pointing the finger at other countries, as she has to your country from time to time, and lectured about human rights, about corruption and the rule of law, when her own history, her personal background is so deeply compromised by her central involvement in this very large fraud and the continuing cover-up. In Australia, labour unions are critical, they're key in deciding who will be the elected representatives in the Labor Party. And at present, the Labor Party forms government. It produces the Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the Ministers of the Crown in our system of government here. And for a large number of the years that our country has been in existence, it has been ruled by the Labor Party. Now, union officials, to get elected, have to come up with a lot of money. In the case of the union involved in this fraud, the Australian Workers' Union, there were 130,000 members. Now, for a union official to get elected as the president of that union, they have to send out, say, a mail out to each member, maybe do that 3 times. Say each mail out costs 50 cents, 130,000 members times 50 cents 3 times, that's $195,000. That's a lot of money. That's US dollars is a broad equivalent. It's beyond the resources of an individual. So union officials get used to fundraising. They get used to leaning on people for donations. It is very easy in those circumstances to blur the line between what's ethical and what's clearly not ethical. When this matter is investigated properly, Australia will be a better place because we'll know what's gone on. We'll know what methods have been used for fundraising, where money has ended up, and we'll have confidence about the future that our system won't be so easy to compromise. Make no mistake about this. At present, Australia's political system is suspect. We have a Prime Minister in office who has in the background this terrible, terrible skeleton in the closet, this dirty laundry that has not been aired. Now, the potential for knowledge of that to be used against her is substantial, and it's very, very real. Nobody should miss this point. It's a most important point, that on the night that Kevin Rudd, our former Prime Minister, from the same party as Julia Gillard, on the night that he was knifed in the back and replaced as Prime Minister undemocratically, he's moved out of the job as Prime Minister and replaced by her, the organisation that made the announcement, it wasn't the Parliament, it wasn't the Parliamentary Labor Party, it wasn't a political party at all. It was a union. And it was the union at the centre of this fraud. The Australian Workers' Union made the announcement on television of who would be the newly appointed Prime Minister, Julia Gillard. That should send alarm bells off. That should be so alarming to anybody who's interested in democracy, in the rule of law, in equal representation for all. The fact that a union with shadowy figures could cause a change or could announce a change in the head of government of a sovereign nation like Australia is alarming. Those are the implications that are at the heart of what should be investigated, in the AWU scandal. I can't sleep easily until it is.